What if the entire human population jumped at once? Sounds like the setup for some kind of apocalyptic disaster movie, right? But let's pause for a second and think, what would actually happen if all 8 billion people on Earth coordinated a giant, simultaneous jump? First, let's consider the scale. According to recent estimates, there are roughly 8 billion humans alive today. The average person weighs about 60 kilograms, but let's be conservative and round that up to 70 kilograms to account for adults and children together. Multiply 70 kilograms by 8 billion people, and you get a total human mass of approximately 560 billion kilograms or 560 million metric tons. That's a lot of weight. Now, imagine all these people synchronizing their jump perfectly. What does that mean? Everyone crouches, then explodes upward at the same time, pushing off the ground with their legs and propelling their bodies into the air for a fraction of a second. The force that they exert on the ground is what interests us here. When you jump, Newton's third law says that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So, when your legs push down on the ground pushes back up, launching you into the air. If 8 billion people did this simultaneously, they would all push down on the Earth at once, exerting a huge force. But would that force be enough to shake the planet? Could it cause an earthquake? Let's break it down. The force of a single person jumping might seem small, but collectively it adds up. When you jump, you typically push against the ground with a force that can be roughly twice your body weight. For our average 70 kilogram person, that means about 1,400 newtons of force. Multiply that by 8 billion, and you get a force of approximately 11.2 trillion newtons pushing down on the Earth. That sounds enormous, but remember the Earth is incredibly massive, about 6 sextillion kilograms, 6 followed by 24 zeros. So even this gigantic force is like a tiny tickle compared to the mass of the planet. What about the effect on the Earth's surface? Could it trigger seismic activity? Earthquakes happen when tectonic plates shift or when built-up stress is suddenly released underground. Could this force from human jumping be enough to cause such stress? Probably not in a major way. The jump would generate some vibrations in the ground, similar to a small localized tremor, but nothing like the magnitude of natural earthquakes. Scientists have calculated that even the combined energy of a massive crowd jumping would produce seismic waves equivalent to a very minor tremor, maybe something like a magnitude 2 or less, which is barely noticeable. What about the atmosphere? When billions of people jump up, they all leave the ground briefly, creating a sudden reduction in pressure on the surface for a split second. Would that cause any weird atmospheric effects? Not really. The amount of air displaced by all those people jumping simultaneously is negligible compared to the volume of the atmosphere. The air would rush in to fill the tiny gap created under their feet almost instantly, and you wouldn't notice any change in weather or air pressure. Now, what about the moment everyone lands? Could the combined impact cause damage? When people land after a jump, they exert a force on the ground again, sometimes even greater than when they take off, because they decelerate quickly and their bodies absorb impact. Multiply that force by billions of people landing simultaneously, and you get another huge pressure spike on the Earth's surface. This could cause more noticeable vibrations than the jump itself, but still nothing catastrophic. The ground would absorb the force across vast areas, preventing any massive damage. Still, in localized places with large crowds like sports stadiums or festivals, this kind of synchronized jumping has been known to cause mild tremors and rattling. So, if the whole human race jumped at once, would it cause widespread destruction? The answer is no. The Earth is simply too big and heavy. We wouldn't shift its orbit, cause earthquakes capable of toppling cities, or launch ourselves into space. However, there are other fun ways to think about this scenario. For example, would the jump create a tiny change in the Earth's rotation? When people jump, they exert forces in different directions, but because the jumps happen all over the planet and mostly cancel out, the net effect on Earth's spin would be effectively zero. Also, what if everyone jumped off the ground at once? Would the Earth recoil? In physics, momentum is conserved, so the Earth would get a tiny push backward equal and opposite to the jumper's momentum. But again, because the Earth is so massive, the resulting movement would be imperceptible on the order of nanometers. Finally, this idea highlights something cool about physics and scale. Individual actions that seem powerful can become insignificant when compared to natural forces on a planetary level. Yet, the concept of billions of people acting together, even for a split second, reminds us of the incredible potential of humanity when united. So, next time you're at a concert or sports game and everyone jumps in unison, remember, while it's unlikely to trigger a global earthquake, it's still a pretty impressive feat of collective energy. In conclusion, the entire human population jumping at once would be an epic event to witness and would produce some mild vibrations and fun science stories, but it won't shake the planet or send us flying into space. The Earth, our home, is sturdier than we might imagine, and that's something worth appreciating.